be going over my second part of Romans 1, chapter 1, verses 18 onward to the finishing of that chapter. The wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all godlessness, wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness, since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen and being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. For although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God, nor gave thanks to him, but their thinking became futile. Their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like a mortal human being, and birds and reptiles and animals. Therefore God gave them over to their sinful desires of their hearts, to sexual impurity, for the degrading of their bodies with one another. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie, worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen. Okay, I'll stop there for now. Paul here is talking about how we have turned back from God, how it makes no sense for us to be seeing this great world that we have and somehow think that God is not real. For we can tell that he is real by the fact that we live, by the fact that this earth has so much going for it, by seeing everything that is made, how it's constructed. That alone is proof of his power. And he's saying here that the wrath of God is being revealed. How is that being revealed? Well, part of it here is talking about that our thinking became futile and our hearts became darkened. And so he gave us over to our desires. Now that's one part. But it's not really his wrath. But that's saying how we've gotten to this point. That we are deserving of his wrath because of what we've done against him. So forgive me for what I said before. His wrath is not that. His wrath was shown in Revelation. That will be his wrath upon humanity. But he is saying that we, who are so sinful, that despite knowing the truth of God, which is so clear to us, you see everything on the earth and it's very clear of his truth, we refuse to believe it. We refuse to acknowledge his existence. And it's very confusing on why we do so. Part of it, he'll explain why later on. But how it got to this point, he explains, is because we don't give thanks to God. We don't glorify him. But instead of glorifying him, we glorify the things that he made. Everything that he has done for us, we glorify that instead of him. We ask him to do all these things, and yet we never give him glory. We never give him thanks. Instead, we let our ego take priority, and we say that we did it, when in actuality, God has given us grace and favor and allowed us to have it. For it said in Job that we come into this world naked, and we will exit this world naked. For God has granted us everything, and he will take away everything as he pleases. So here is telling us that because of this egotistical thinking that we can live without God, our hearts become dark, and our thinking becomes futile. Our hearts and our soul and our mind become separated from him, and we bring a barrier in between us. And that leads to our own destruction. That leads us into, instead of having a mind set on him and a mind set on what he wants for us, it instead leads us into our own fleshly desires, into what our flesh wants. And it will keep turning down more and more and more, instead of what we actually want, God's will, to what we think we want, which is what our flesh wants, which is only going against God's will, because it is so rebellious against God, because we are born in sin. It causes us to do all the things that are not of God here. As I continue on to 26, because of this, God gave them over to shameful lusts. Even though women exchanged natural relations for unnatural ones, in the same way men also abandoned natural relations with women and were inflamed with lust for one another. They committed shameful acts and received themselves the due penalty for their error. Furthermore, as they did not think worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to a depraved mind, so that they do ought will not be done. They have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, and depravity. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice, gossips, slanders, God-haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. They disobey parents. They have no understanding, no fidelity, love, mercy. Although they know God's righteous decree that those who do such things deserve death, they not only continue to do these very things, but approve those who practice them. All of this just shows the fruits of what this thinking will lead to and what it has led to. He isn't saying this is what it will lead to, he's saying this is already what's been done, and you see it every day. You see it everywhere. We serve our phones, we serve our lusts and our passions that do not glorify God at all. In fact, are mostly against what he wishes for us. And it makes us think that our passions are better than his will for us. It makes us think that we are better than him because what we want is better than what he has for us. We refuse to let him take control of our life and take control of our thinking, instead of allowing him to use us in the way that he wants us to be used, for he created us. So why are we removing the creator from the created? Why are you removing his will from what he made for us? He made us for a purpose. And when you use something that's outside of its purpose, it's not as effective as it would be when it is used with the intended purpose. It's how it is. That's how it always will be. That's why it's so important to keep God's commandments so what's the word I'm trying to put here? Keep it a priority. That's why it's so important to keep the knowledge of the word, for it is our instruction book to everything that we should follow. It tells us it's through this that we are able to discern, through the Spirit that we're able to discern what is Him and what is our flesh. And it's through that we are able to tell if we're living away from God or if we're living for Him. And it said there that despite us living the way that we live and knowing it's wrong, people decide to continue living in it because their flesh wants to, and others tend to glorify them, whether that is because they too want to continue living in the wrong ways, or they do not actually know it is wrong. It is on them, but we approve of that sinning, and that alone is sinning. For Jesus has said that the one who turns a righteous man to sin, who causes them to sin, will be led and be punished for it. And so overall, it's saying here that we need God. We need God in our life. We cannot be turning away from God, because it is only through God that we are able to live righteously. And it's evident in nature. Everything, really, is evident in nature. You see God, and you're evident in nature. You see people, you see everything. You're evident to see the results of not having God. You're able to tell the truth and the lie, and the truth that is buried by lies. And so, because of all of this, we do all types of evil, and everything that we do seems normal. We're so disobedient, envy, we lie all the time, we gossip and slander people, we have depraved minds. And we think it's normal. But we need to strive to do the opposite. And it's something that's hard to do at first because it's against your very nature, but it's something very important. For the fruit of the Spirit is quite frankly the opposite of that. And everything that it should be makes sense. I mean, everything the opposite of, we're full of peace, humility, love, knowledge. It's something that we need. It's something that we should always strive for. It's something that's only found within God. It's hard for us to truly humble ourselves to get to this point, to that point. But it's something that is necessary and required, because it's not how we're supposed to live. Thank you again for hearing this word and allowing me to use this to bring this word back to me and to anyone else who is listening. Thank you.